Time has a way of teaching us the worth of silence. I spent my life building a home, raising children, and dreaming that love alone would be enough. Yet, as I sit here in the quiet of my study, listening to the wind scrape against the windows, I realize that some lessons cannot be whispered. They must be felt. And sometimes the ones we love the most are the first to forget what we gave them. The sunlight fell in gentle stripes across the worn wooden floor of the Holloway house. Dust motes floated lazily in the golden morning light. James Holloway, 78, thin but strong in posture, sat at the dining table, hands folded over a cup of tea. The aroma of chamomile lingered in the air, mixing with the faint scent of aged wood. He glanced at the framed photo on the wall. Margaret, his late wife, smiling with a small, secretive grin. Their 3 children, David, Clara, and Eli, had grown under her shadow as much as his. Funny, he murmured to himself, how they all grow up, but some of them forget the roots that held them. The house was unusually quiet that morning. No chatter from the children, no laughter, just the distant hum of life outside. James knew why. His health had been declining, and in the back of his mind he could hear the whispers of expectations, of hidden calculations behind polite smiles. The front door creaked, and David's voice rang sharp and impatient. "Morning, Dad. I hope you're feeling okay. The lawyer said you might want to sign some paperwork today." James looked up slowly. David, the eldest, well-dressed in a tailored suit, checked his watch compulsively. There was always a hurry in his movements, a need to control. Clara followed, elegant, poised, her eyes scanning the room with a faint, practiced disdain. "I suppose we should make sure everything is in order," she said, voice measured, almost rehearsed. Then Eli appeared, quietly, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. He smiled at his father, not with calculation, but with genuine warmth. "Good morning, Dad. I brought these for you," he said softly. James's chest tightened. Eli, the one who never asked, the one who understood, the one who remembered small kindnesses, was here like always, unnoticed by the others. The 3 children gathered around the table. David pulled out documents, Clara organized a folder of bank statements, and Eli quietly watched. James sipped his tea, letting them speak first. David: "Dad, we need to make sure the estate is properly allocated. The house, your savings, everything. It's for your own good." Clara: "Yes, we need clarity. You don't want disputes after, you know." Eli: "Maybe we can just sit and enjoy breakfast first." James's eyes lingered on Eli. Patience, he thought. Eli has always been patient. The others, they measure love with numbers. David leaned forward. "I just want what's fair, Dad. You know how expensive the house is. We could—" "Stop." James's voice was soft, but carried weight. "Stop comparing love to money. Stop pretending that inheritance defines loyalty. It does not." A silence fell. Clara tapped her fingers on the folder. David looked away. Eli simply smiled, reaching out to squeeze his father's hand. James retreated into his thoughts. The years rolled back in his mind. Late nights of patching clothes, early mornings teaching Eli to read, laughter echoing through the hallways, Margaret's voice floating through memory like a gentle ghost. "They see what they want to see," he whispered. "David and Clara see only opportunity. Eli sees the man who raised him, the love we shared, the legacy we built, and perhaps he will be the only one worthy of remembering it." James placed a folded envelope beside his teacup. The leather was worn. Inside was a handwritten note, the last version of his will. A quiet smile touched his lips. "Sometimes the ones who shout the loudest are the first to lose, and sometimes the ones who never ask are the ones who truly deserve everything. I have spent my life believing that love could guide them, that patience could teach them wisdom. Yet here they are, my own children, blind to the years I carried them, blind to the sacrifices I made. And still I sit quietly, because sometimes the loudest voices reveal the deepest truths." The morning sun filtered through lace curtains, dust motes sparkling like tiny golden stars. James sat at the dining table, his tea untouched. The air was heavy with unspoken competition. David shuffled papers, glancing occasionally at the clock. Clara arranged the cutlery with sharp precision, her gaze darting to her brother. Eli, as always, was quiet, humming softly while arranging his plate. David: "Dad, I was thinking, maybe we should consider selling the house before we, make things more complicated." Clara: "Yes, it's been in the family a long time, but it's quite valuable. Maybe it's time to put it to better use." James sipped his tea slowly, eyes flicking toward Eli, who looked down at his own plate. James's voiceover: "They speak of legacy as though it's a balance sheet. They count walls, wood, and land as if love could be bought. And Eli still sees the heart beneath it all." Eli: "Or maybe we should just stay in the house and care for it, Dad. Isn't that why we've all been here?" David scoffed. "Care for it? That's sentimental nonsense. The world doesn't run on memories." Clara nodded, her smile polite but cold. "Sentiment doesn't pay bills, Eli. Or do you think your father built this place for nostalgia?" By mid-morning, the atmosphere had shifted from polite tension to open conflict. David gestured toward the window, pointing outside at the driveway. "I could find a buyer who'll pay top dollar. We don't need to waste time or sentimentality." Clara: "Finally, some sense. Father, I hope you realize that keeping this house as it is, well, it's holding everyone back." James's voiceover: "Holding everyone back, or holding them accountable. Perhaps they will learn what they deserve soon enough." Eli shifted uncomfortably, his voice quiet but firm. "We grew up here. Every nail, every brick. It's more than money. It's memories. Isn't that worth something?" David's jaw tightened. "Memories don't feed anyone, Eli. You need to see the world as it is, not as it used to be." James's voiceover: They are blind to what matters most, and I will not wake them with shouts. I will wait, and they will see." After the argument, James excused himself to the study. He retrieved a small leather envelope, the new version of his will. Inside, he had made subtle adjustments, rewarding the child who acted from love, not greed. James's voiceover. David and Clara fight for numbers, titles, and walls. Eli never asks for more than a moment together, a smile, a memory. The one who truly loves deserves everything, and they will all realize it in time. He placed the envelope in a locked drawer and called Eli into the room. As the night grew late, James stood by the window, looking out at the old garden. The moonlight touched the edges of the flower beds he and Margaret had planted decades ago. They fight for gold and silver, thinking they are winning. But the true inheritance is never counted in coins. They will come to understand in their own time that love is the wealth that cannot be stolen. He returned to his study, closing the drawer where the new will rested. The camera lingers on the locked leather envelope, a silent promise to justice, to the one who never asked. I have seen the world change, seen children grow into adults, and watched greed sneak quietly into hearts I once trusted. Now it is time to see who truly remembers love, who seeks comfort in wealth, and who simply seeks to be near me for the right reasons. Some lessons must be observed, not told. James feigned weakness that morning, barely able to lift his teacup. They must think I am fragile, powerless. Let them come to me with hearts or calculations. Their true nature will reveal itself soon enough. David entered first, brisk and impatient. "Dad, you should rest. We can handle things here. Maybe even talk about selling some property while you're. Clara followed, eyes sharp, measuring every word. "It would be irresponsible not to make decisions while you're less able. You should sign these documents. The sooner the better." Eli, as usual, approached quietly with a blanket and a cup of warm tea. "Here, Dad, you should drink this and sit for a moment." James's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. There it is. Desire versus devotion. Greed versus care. And Eli, still steady, still kind. James invited them all to a family lunch under the guise of discussion. I thought it would be good to talk about everything. David launched into plans for investments, acquisitions, and profit. Clara subtly nudged him, adding commentary about legal advantages. The ones who shout first never listen. They cannot see beyond the surface. But those who come quietly, they carry wisdom. Eli spoke rarely, only offering small insights, like suggesting they check the roof for repairs or recalling a memory of the old kitchen table. He values what is unseen, what is uncounted. That is why he will inherit more than gold. James arranged for a practical test. He sent David and Clara to inspect a property, a dilapidated barn he had once repaired with his own hands. David grumbling, "Why are we doing this? It's a waste of time." Clara smirked, "Yes, some sentimental nonsense, no value at all." Eli stayed behind to assist James in cataloging old family documents and photographs. He treated each item with care, asking his father questions, remembering stories, laughing softly at the memories. They chase wealth, blind to its fleeting nature. Eli remains here, counting moments instead of dollars. Soon they will understand what truly lasts. Later that evening, James summoned the children back to the living room. "Tell me what you discovered at the barn today." David stomped in, frustrated. "It's falling apart, useless. I don't understand why you wanted us to waste our time." Clara smirked. "Yes, some sentimental nonsense, no value at all." Eli quietly added, "I stayed here and sorted the documents, Dad. I found letters from Mom and pictures of us as children. It reminded me how much you both built for us and how much you gave. It felt important." James leaned back, observing the stark contrast. There it is. One child sees past the material, the others see only the surface. The truth is crystal clear, even if they refuse to admit it. James retired to his study late that night. He wrote a short note to accompany the new will, emphasizing intent without naming names. "I will not punish them with harsh words. They have already punished themselves with greed. Eli will understand, and through him the legacy will live as it should." He set the envelope carefully on the top shelf of his locked drawer, hidden in plain sight. James stepped into the hallway, looking at the portraits of his late wife and children. The moonlight illuminated the old oak floors. The ones who demanded will see nothing. The one who quietly gave will inherit everything. And when the time comes, the silence will speak louder than words could ever. Life is measured not in hours or wealth, but in the moments we leave behind. I have watched, I have waited, and I have seen the hearts of those I love. Now it is time for the truth to speak, and for justice to unfold quietly, without anger, without shame, but with undeniable weight. James's health had noticeably declined. He walked slowly with the aid of a cane, leaning on the walls he had built with care decades ago. Yet his eyes remained sharp, aware, almost mischievous, as if he carried secrets only he knew. David and Clara began visiting more frequently, their faces polite but tense. "Dad, Maybe it's time to finalize things. We want to be sure everything is in order. Yes, you must sign everything soon. We need clarity. Eli, as always, visited quietly, bringing soup, tidying his father's room, reading old letters aloud from Margaret, his voice gentle, full of warmth. They come for what they can claim. Eli comes for what is already given freely. The difference is profound. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, James sat in the study alone. A small lamp bathed the room in golden light. He touched the locked envelope containing the will and smiled softly. Soon they will understand, not with shouting or anger, but with the quiet sting of truth. Greed teaches its own lessons, and humility is rewarded in silence. He wrote one final note for Eli, leaving it on the table. For the one who never asked, who saw more than numbers, who loved without conditions, this is yours. Always remember why. That night, James Holloway passed peacefully in his sleep, Margaret's photograph clutched gently in his hands. No drama, no shouting, just quiet closure. The next morning, the children gathered for the reading of the will. David and Clara were confident, expecting to inherit. Life does not end when we leave it. Our actions echo, our lessons linger, and sometimes the quietest truth is the loudest of all. I have given my final gift, not of wealth, but of understanding, and in their hearts the lesson will take root, whether they like it or not. Months after James's passing, Eli walked through the halls of the family home, now officially his. Dust had been cleared, repairs made, and sunlight streamed warmly through the windows. He paused at the photograph of Margaret on the mantel, whispering softly. Eli says, "We'll keep it alive, Dad. Every memory, every lesson, it will live here." He then opened the envelope James had left for him, a note, simple and heartfelt. Eli, the one who never asked shall always see. Guard love above all. Dad. David and Clara visited weeks later, tentative, humbled. Clara says, "Eli, I'm sorry. I see now we were blind. We only saw numbers and property, not the people who built it." David's face, usually confident, was lined with regret. David says, "I thought I was honoring Father. I only dishonored him. I forgot what mattered most." Eli placed a hand on each of their shoulders. Eli says, "Father left me the house, yes, but he also left all of us a chance to understand. This isn't about punishment, it's about remembering." Eli began restoring not just the house, but the family traditions. He arranged community events, invited neighbors, and kept alive the small joys his father and mother had treasured. Eli says in voiceover, "Father's gift was never just the house. It was a chance to see beyond greed, to value patience, humility, and care. And perhaps now we will not forget." One quiet evening, Clara returned alone. She carried an old family photograph and tears in her eyes. Clara says, "Eli, I wanted to see him through your eyes, and through my own. I understand now.
Thank you for keeping him alive here." Eli smiled softly, placing the photograph on the mantel next to Margaret's. Eli says, "He would have wanted you to see the truth without bitterness. Remember him as he was, with love." And James's voice echoes from memory. "The ones who shouted for gold learned little. The one who gave quietly inherited everything, not just possessions, but the weight of love, the strength of patience, the beauty of humility. Sometimes the greatest inheritance is not what you leave, but what they learn when you are gone." Time has a way of teaching us the worth of silence. I spent my life building a home, raising children, and dreaming that love alone would be enough. Yet as I sit here in the quiet of my study, listening to the wind scrape against the windows, I realize that some lessons cannot be whispered. They must be felt. And sometimes the ones we love the most are the first to forget what we gave them. Sunlight fell in gentle stripes across the worn wooden floor of the Holloway house. James, 78, thin but strong, sat at the dining table, hands folded over a cup of tea. A photograph of Margaret, his late wife, smiled down from the wall, reminding him of decades of love, loss, and memories. His 3 children entered: David, the eldest, brisk and ambitious; Clara, sharp-eyed and elegant; and Eli, quiet, humble, and always patient. David says, "Morning, Dad. I hope you're feeling okay. The lawyer said you might want to sign some paperwork today." Clara says, "Yes, we need clarity. You don't want disputes after, you know." Eli says, "Good morning, Dad. I brought these for you." James watched Eli with warmth. Eli has always been patient. The others, they measure love with numbers. Tension grew as David and Clara subtly hinted at plans for property and money. Eli simply smiled, tending to small acts of care. James knew this quiet child would see the heart beneath the calculations, while the others chased gold. That night, James placed a folded envelope, the new will, in a locked drawer. Sometimes the ones who shout the loudest are the first to lose, and sometimes the ones who never ask are the ones who truly deserve everything. Over breakfast, the children's greed surfaced. David says, "Maybe we should consider selling the house." Clara says, "Finally, some sense. Father, I hope you realize keeping this house is holding everyone back." Eli says, "Or maybe we should just stay in the house and care for it, Dad?" James sipped his tea slowly. They see what they want to see. Eli sees the man who raised him, the love we shared, the legacy we built. By midday, tensions escalated. David and Clara argued openly, while Eli stayed calm, observing the contrast between greed and devotion. James orchestrated small tests, sending David and Clara to inspect a dilapidated barn while Eli stayed to sort family letters and photographs. They chase wealth, blind to its fleeting nature. Eli remains here, counting moments instead of dollars. Soon they will understand what truly lasts. At dinner, the contrast was clear. David and Clara loud and demanding, Eli quiet and attentive. James feigned weakness, observing who came out of obligation and who came out of care. David says, "We can handle things here, maybe sell some property." Clara says, "Yes, You should sign these documents. The sooner the better." Eli says, "Here, Dad, drink this and sit for a moment." Through small challenges, James revealed their true natures. David and Clara sought profit and advantage. Eli sought only to assist and care. James locked the final version of the will in his drawer, leaving a note for Eli, emphasizing love over greed. "I will not punish them with harsh words. They have already punished themselves with greed. Eli will understand, and through him the legacy will live as it should." James passed peacefully at night, clutching Margaret's photograph. At the reading of the will, shock overtook David and Clara. The lawyer says, "To my children, who demanded and calculated every detail, I leave memories and the understanding of what was lost in pursuit of wealth. To my son Eli Holloway, who never asked, who gave freely and cared truly, I leave everything, the house, the land, the accounts, and all possessions." Eli wept quietly, not for wealth, but for his father. Greed gains nothing. Humility gains everything. The lesson is clear, and it will echo. Months later, Eli restored the family home and traditions. He invited the siblings, who arrived humbled and remorseful. Clara says, I understand now. We were blind." David says, "We forgot what really mattered." Eli says, "Father left me the house, yes, but he also left all of us a chance to understand. This isn't about punishment, it's about remembering." Through Eli's stewardship, the Holloway home became a place of memory, love, and community. One quiet evening, Clara returned alone, placing an old photograph on the mantel. Clara says, "I wanted to see him through your eyes, and through my own. I understand now. Thank you for keeping him alive here." Eli smiled softly, placing the photograph on the mantel next to Margaret's. Eli says, "He would have wanted you to see the truth without bitterness. Remember him as he was, with love." The camera pans through the house, sunlit, warm, and full of life. The old oak tree outside stretches its branches